tell everybody your background and
Sure, yeah. Come on, guys. This is not church. You can
we've
sit
got
down.
lots of schools all over the place too.
And I have two handouts over here, so if you want to get those.
I have a sticker from SCORE on my wall at home. It's a Southern California off-road racing enthusiast. A little different. From the Baja region.
Right. John? Cameraman? Should I be in makeup before? You want to give me 50?
You do have makeup on, right?
It's all right, we're blind.
Move on. There you go. Can I get one? Right behind you. Anytime, John, go ahead and start.
Yep. It's all yours.
Okay, well, thank you. Good lunch and good afternoon, and thank you for the invitation to come speak with you a little bit. I did my homework in that I went out and saw a couple of the videos. I saw two of those. I was very impressed with Tom, and I was also impressed about, I didn't watch the entire hour and 45 minutes, but I did watch about at least 45 minutes, and I thought that was very interesting with the speakers that you have. I'll do a little introduction of myself. Basically, I'm a graduate engineer, and I spent 8 years in the nuclear Navy, in nuclear submarines. I decided that was not going to be my career, so I got out and went back to school and got an MBA, so a business degree. Then I worked for a number of engineering companies in the nuclear field, and as it turns out, one of my clients happened to be Gilbert Associates, which is a local architect engineering firm here in Reading, so I joined them about 35 years ago. I stayed with them for about 10 years. I was at engineering, I was a project manager, and then I went over to management consulting. And I kind of enjoyed management consulting because I enjoyed more about the business aspects of engineering than I did the engineering. So after 10 years, and I also had a couple of marketing assignments too. And then after 10 years, I joined a firm out of Chicago, and we had moved up here from Washington, D.C., and my wife said, well, Russ, I don't know about you, but this is our last move. The two boys can't take the move, so we're going to stay here. So I joined a firm out of Chicago in management consulting. And I joined as a manager, and a year later, I became a partner. And the reason I mentioned that is because I'd been in marketing positions all through my career, but was never in a selling position. I mean, I marketed, but I didn't sell per se. And it wasn't until I became a partner that I actually had to sell, because as a partner, you actually had to eat what you killed. But you had to kill to eat. So we were a small firm. We had 65 consultants. And when I joined, I was number 19. So we built up. We also found it was best to grow organically. That is, to grow people inside the company rather than go out and hire a partner. We tried that once or twice, and that didn't work. And our business model was interesting because when we got an assignment, we actually went out and we went and did the work at a client's location. So we had a national practice. We were in the energy field, and we worked primarily for utility companies, which meant that on a Monday morning, I drove down to Philadelphia and got in a plane and went to a client's location. It could be Texas, California, Florida, Massachusetts, wherever. So 4 or 5 days a week I traveled. But that was a market niche back in the mid-1980s, that we actually did the work at a client's location. And one thing we found out was when you're at a client's location, they'll ask you, can you do thus and such? And of course the answer is, sure we can, right? So we might start with like a 3-month assignment, and 2 years later we're still the same client. So from an organizational standpoint, I think it's interesting to tell, you come in as a consultant, and then if you can show that you can do the work, then you become a project manager, so you can do the work and then you can manage the work. And then the next step is you become a partner. All right, so we had 65 in our firm, and we had 5 partners. That was a huge gap to go from project manager or director to partner. And why was it a huge gap? Because what you had to do there, you could do the business, the work, you could manage the work, but you had to be able to sell the business. So selling is a very big, important issue. So that's where I come professionally. From a personal standpoint, I'm a woodworker. And see the two Windsor chairs up there? I was telling John, I didn't do the right one, but I did the left one. Not that particular chair, but I have a workshop in my basement, so I work in there on occasion now. And I also, once a year, I go down to Williamsburg, Virginia, and I go to a woodworker's workshop down there. 18th century furniture with 18th century tools. And that's very interesting. So it's not really, they call it a workshop, but it's actually a seminar. Because the first time I called, I wanted to see if I could get in, and they said, well, I'm sorry, Russ, but the two classes are closed. They go from like Sunday to Wednesday, and then Thursday to Sunday, that type of thing. And she said, why? I said, well, how do you close it? What, you have 19, you can't get the 20th one in the workshop? She said, no, you're not clear on the concept. We cut it off at 2:35. They have a huge auditorium in that they actually have the people down there on the stage making what you're supposed to be making. So it's amazing. And it's the guys from the cabinet shop. They have Mac Headley, who's the master craftsman, and then he has 2 journeymen and 2 apprentices. And they make the equipment right there. They make it all hand tools, all everything. The reason I mentioned that with Mac Headley is because he's a craftsman there, but what does Mac do? He wears the period pieces, right? He has the costume. But on the side, he has his own woodworking workshop, which I think is interesting. And he's the 3rd generation craftsman. His grandfather started, his father started, and now, although he's there, he has a business on the side, and his brother has his dad's workshop. So in addition to his day job, he has another job that he has on the side. But he uses 2 Ps that my wife said I couldn't use down there: plywood and power tools. But he uses those, right? So the issue is, although he's got a day job, he also has a small job on the side. Now, when they do the particular pieces, that the first time I went down, they made a Chesapeake desk, which has 3 drawers, and it's angled at the top, and the top flips down. That's a writing surface, all right? They call that the Chesapeake. And it was from the 1800s. Well, they made one in walnut, and they finished it up, and I said, well, now when you finish after the second class, what are you going to do? So we're going to glue it up, and we're going to sell it. I said, well, what do we sell it for? I said, somewhere between $10,000 and $12,000. It's an actual reproduction, but what you're paying for is what they stamp on the back, WMBRG, Williamsburg, right? So we'll talk a little about branding. So that's me. So what did I do when I retired? Well, since I was consulting, and I did a lot of things for very senior people in the organization. So I did planning, strategic analysis, competitive analysis, merger and acquisition, things like that. So I felt very comfortable with marketing and consulting. So when I retired, I sent somebody a Christmas card and said, I'm retired. So he went from getting my Christmas card right to the telephone and said, you got to join SCORE. And I said, sure, that sounds pretty good. What is it? Right. So how many guys have heard of SCORE before? Oh, you have heard of SCORE before? Okay. Service Corps Retired Executives. And basically what it is, it's all volunteers nationally. And we have about 14,000 volunteers, about 350 chapters around the United States. We're chapter 008, 8th chapter here to be certified by the Small Business Administration back in 1964, so we're coming up 50 years. In Reading, we have 32 volunteers. I'm one of the 32. We also are responsible for Berks County, for Schuylkill County. So we have a branch office up in Pottsville for another 21. So we have about 52, 53 different counselors who volunteer as well. So what do? We do 3 things. We do counseling, we do mentoring, and we do education. For counseling, it's free, it's confidential, and we're located in downtown Reading at the Chamber office. And so we have every Monday and every Thursday, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. Come on in, and we'll sit down and talk to you. And who do we talk to? We talk to people who want to start a business, and we also talk to existing businesses that have some difficulty or have some issues that they want to talk to us about. And that's what I call mentoring, because some of the guys who have their businesses can't take off a Thursday or a Monday and come in and talk to us. So we'll go out to the site location and mentor there. The third thing that we do is education. And the education is we teach 6 classes that we have over at Reading Area Community College every spring and every fall. Such things as how to start your own business, how to write a business plan, legal issues for the small business, social media, big on social media. in niche marketing and probably one or two excellence. I teach some of the classes, but I also maintain, I don't teach all the classes, but for example, the one that we had for how to start your own business that Scott had been in 6 years ago, we bring in a banker, a lawyer, accountant, insurance mentor, and we bring in somebody from the internet. So we have somebody from social media come in. Now, when you go to us for counseling and we come to you, it's free and it's confidential. When we go out for education, there at REC, we have to charge. There's a registration fee. It's not too bad. The most expensive one is how to start your own business, which is 8 weeks, and that's about $130 right now. And this is part of the education too. So we have our education over there at REC, but I also have things when we come out to the community. So I'm doing this today. On Tuesday, I'm doing Berks Technical Institute, the BTI. They have students out there that have joined the business club. So I'm going to have to talk to them about how do you start a business. I've been over to Berks campus. I've talked to the entrepreneurs workshop over there. They have, now you're in college and doing that. And then on Wednesday, I go to Pottsville, and I'm doing something for a nonprofit up there. And it's to do, we'll talk about a little bit that as soon as we get it going here. So, so that's me. When I get to SCORE, the question is, have you ever had any opportunity to work with artisans and craftsmen such as yourself? And we have some success stories. For example, Tech Basement was an IT guy who would fix your and repair your computer. He'll sell any computer that you have. He'll sell it for $100. You want a computer that your kids can play games on, but don't mess with your computer? Come on in, and you can buy it for $100. Skulls and Strings, another luthier locally here in West Reading, came in. I helped him do his business plan. He's still in business. That had to be 8 years ago. Interior decorator, designer. Now follow this one. Black Buggy Baking Company, right? I'll say that fast once, all right? Here's a gal who was a litigation attorney in downtown New York, married a farmer in Ole Valley, and she loved to bake. And she just hated twice a week, she took the Beaver bus and went to her office over in Manhattan. So she made a lot of money. She said, I have to give that. That's not a life to live. So she decided to make cookies and pies. So she started out primarily on a part-time basis, and now she has her location kiosk at all the farmers market. So I asked her, well, how much money do you actually want to make? And she said, what I want to do, because my husband's a farmer, I want to make enough money that I can have an in-ground pool for my kids. That's her goal, right? And that was fine. And she did it. There's another gentleman who graduated from Kutztown University in jewelry design. And today he has his own dental laboratory in his basement. Jewelry design. I said, you can't make those. So what do? He makes crowns, he makes dentures, and bridges. How can you get those in your bridge? It doesn't matter. As long as he has a specification, you can correct me, John, here.
That's
right.
right.
As long as the spec that comes back out and said, this is the contents of that. I said, well, what about all those nasty things that you're making just flush down the drain? Do you have a problem with that? I don't have a problem with that. Okay? He's been running it for the second or third year. And the last one is golf club head covers. Here's a gal. Remember, Berkshire used to be the great knitting companies of the world, I guess. And at one point in time, they used to make socks. So she and her husband got some of the secondhand equipment that they were throwing out at one point in time. They saved it. And so it's like making Argyle socks. So she was making by hand, and then she mechanized that. So now she makes the golf club head covers. So she went around to all the local golf courses, probably in 2 or 3 counties. Couldn't get it take off. So what'd she do? She opened a website. And now she's so busy making it. I said, where's your business? She said, the Gulf States, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, Texas, right? And Europe. She's on the internet, right? Crank it away. Golf club head covers. Now, so that was me. Now, how many guys, I know you all artists and craftsmen, how many have your own business, are in business for yourselves and have 1, 2, 3, 4? And the rest of you are part-timers and do it on a part-time basis, I'm assuming? Right, okay. All right.
You
You'll
may
see-
want to clarify something there.
Oh, sure, yeah, go ahead. I was gonna say, go ahead and.
I would imagine most of us are not in the business of building guitars.
Oh,
We're involved in a different business.
okay, we'll talk about it when I go through it in a little bit here. But thanks, great point to make. Usually when I do this, I'm a slave of PowerPoint. You know, for me, it's almost like death by PowerPoint. So I didn't want to do PowerPoint today, but I did want to use the handout, so we can go through the handout if we can. Take a look at page number 2. I'll just go down briefly what we're going to talk about. Because when John asked me, could I come over and check if you got this? Sure, I have no problem with that. What should I talk about? And so I told him what I was going to do. So you can see, I'm going to talk about starting out, what's in the business name, if you have a name, what's the role of the business plan, realities of finance using your professional team, the importance of sales and marketing. I'll talk a little bit more about that. The role and impact of technology, effective use of performance measurements, managing your business and what successful businesses do. So if we go to the second page, oh, and by the way, and just if you do have questions, let's not wait till 45 minutes later. Just if you have a question, and you need clarification, or you go, give me a pushback too. Say, Russ, I don't believe that, right? Or could you clarify that or whatever? So the second page is really the importance of what you guys are for the small business, how the impact of small business. On the left hand, you'll see this is the national scale. There are 27 million businesses in the United States. And you see the largest portion there, 78%, are the non-employer firms. 78%, almost 21 million, are non-employer firms, which mean that's the doctor, that's the lawyer, not the dentist anymore, you can't have one dentist. That's the engineer, that's a contractor, that's a plumber, that's the electrician, that's the sole contractor who goes out for the other subs to work on the business. So that's the sole purpose of the United States for the general economy. Now, walk that over to the middle, which is Pennsylvania, and you see Pennsylvania has about 1 million small businesses as it's constructed today. And you see almost 2/3, 67%, are in eastern Pennsylvania. Why is that? From Harrisburg on east, that's where the population is, right? So that would make sense. So then I broke it down and look at Berks County. So for Berks County, they have almost 9,000 small businesses, right? No, excuse me, 9,000 businesses. But you see 72% have 0 to 10 employees. Now in Berks County, who are the highest 2 employers of Berks County? Go.
Reading Hospital.
Reading Hospital, number 1. Pardon?
Agriculture?
No. East Penn Manufacturing. East Penn Manufacturing, Deca Battery. Yeah, that's interesting. Reading Hospital has about 6,000, and Deca Battery has about 5,000, but growing quicker than that, even than the hospital, which is kind of a bit interesting. So, the new business model in reality is the paradigm is many individuals either own their small business or work for a small business. That's why when I talk to people at Votech and I talk to BTI and the Penn State folks, I said, there's a very, very high probability when you graduate, you're going to probably work for a small business, right? When it comes to on the left-hand side for the national business, there's only 17,000 large businesses. And by large businesses, that's SBA's definition of anything over 500 employees. So the Chryslers of the world, the IBMs of the world, et cetera, that's only 17,000 of the whole picture. Now, the business triangle. When John asked me to come over to talk, said, could you talk a little bit just about general business? Well, this is our business triangle, and I'd like to use this up here as well, only from the standpoint of it's rather simplistic, but I'll tell you, I don't care who you are, what type of business you're in, you're part of it. Did you guys?
I have it on the handout.
You know what? Okay? So I don't care what kind of business you are in, simplistically, you have the triangle. You have operations down here, the artisan, craftsman, technologist, whatever you are, you come in. When they come in and talk to us, I know how to do something. There you are. I want to start my business because I know how to do something, right? But there are other 2 legs of the stool that you have to consider. Number 1 is administration, and number 2 is marketing and sales, all right? So you're artisan and craftsman, and that's good news and bad news. The good news is you have passion, you have fulfillment, you like to do what you like to do. Can I make a business out of that? And I ask the question three things. Number one, is it viable? That is, can I make money doing that? Is it viable? Number two, is it sustainable? Sustainable means, can I do it for more than 6 months, 2 years, right? Can I keep this thing going? And the last thing you want to ask yourself, is it scalable? That is, can I grow my business beyond sustaining it, all right? So you can still be the sole practitioner and still be scalable, right? The thing that you're going to run into eventually is you just have 80 hours a week that you can work, right? You got to have a life. So that's when you get employees or subcontractors who come in. So the administration side, well, I don't have word from an administration side. Well, I'm a sole practitioner. Well, you do have accounting, you have finance, you have insurance, you have legal issues you have to do. Somebody has to do that, right? And then marketing and selling. Oh my God, marketing and selling. I don't like to talk to strange people. No. You can write this one down. If you're in small business, you're in sales, right? If you're in small business, you're in sales, because you have to sell. I mean, who else better can sell your business than you? So you're in small business, you have to be in sales. So I don't care if you're a retail, service, manufacturing. And when I do this on Wednesday to the nonprofit, I put this up for the nonprofit. Although you're a nonprofit, you still have to run it as a for-profit business, right? Now, I know a number of people who are nonprofit, but that's not by design, that's by default, right? But these are nonprofit people, so they have to be in that particular area. So if you're in small business, you're in sales.
Where's the government fit in on that?
Where's the government fit in there?
Everywhere. Everywhere.
It's not pretty.
I had to do that.
Oh, excuse me.
Couldn't help.
Government? There they are. Blank slate.
They're the people operating and not making a profit.
Yeah.
We're continuously operating at a
The
loss.
beauty of this is it's 3M. Okay.
They definitely be one of the 17,000 large businesses.
Now, the other thing I want to go, another hand that I have here on the way out. Remember I told you I was a woodworker, and I get Fine Woodworking Magazine, and they sponsor the workshop down at Williamsburg. And the issue that they had here, I think this is in October and November, but they give 5 case studies of people who are in woodworking and they want to start their business. So the headline goes, Dream Going for Pro. The first one called The Local Craftsman. And I just kind of zip through these a little bit, kind of give you a flavor of what it's about. The first one is he's in New Canaan and he's a one-man shop. He used to share a complex with other people, but they were out of the mainstream. They were in an industrial complex. So he said it was cut off from his business customers. So he wanted visibility and access to his clientele. So he moved into, I don't know if you know where New Canaan is, but it's a very high upscale network. People live there, like we'll say locally would be Wyoming Missing. So he wanted to be there that he could get to the clients who could afford his business. So he has craft shows every 1 or 2 years. He has his own craft show. He also has an affiliation with architects and designers. That's how he gets some of this business for his local furniture. And I think underscore said, selling is a big part of my business. I thought selling is a big part of his business. Number 2 is a guy from Maine. One piece leads the way. Custom furniture, he started turning, in 2008 was a big turning point for him in 2008. And that just happened to be the year that the economy tanked. So he had to do something. He said, I had to make something affordable. So take a look at, he calls it the owl stool in the lower right-hand corner. So that's, he decided, I'm going to make a single product, and that's what I'm going to make, the owl stool. So it's a 3-legged stool, and what he did was he outsourced the seat and he outsourced the legs. He assembled them, he finished them, and he shipped them. He said the first year, and he holds workshops, and he also sold kits. His first year in 2011, he sold 170 of those stools. Last year, he sold 260. So I just ran the numbers. Say he charged $150 for that stool, right? The first year he made $25,000 gross 25,000. The second year would be 54,000. That's before he ships, that's before he buys material, that's before he outsources. I don't know where he's making his money. He also sold on the websites, and he also sold through wholesale, which I thought was interesting. The next guy, this guy's from Chicago. He's a furniture and commission. He's a sole practitioner. 2008 was a big turning point for him. In addition to making furniture, he held weekend classes, and he also wrote books and articles. He said he liked that because he was trained at Yale University in fine arts, and then he went to a New England school in the trade. So he likes to write, so he writes books, and he holds sessions. And he said, that made my job, that made my passion, my fulfillment a little more interesting than just doing things. So in 2008, he got 70% of his gross income came from furniture, 30% came from teaching and from books. Last year, it was 50-50, which was kind of interesting. And he's now diversified in not only making custom furniture, but he's also restoring antiques, and he's doing other people's designs. Typically, if you're a designer, you design your own material and then you build your own material. And he said, no, he's going to do somebody else's. Number 4 is Louisville Creative Partnership. Now, here are 2 guys, and they're teamwork. They were hobbyists, and they were untutored in that they were not schooled per se in craftsmanship. But they started, and now they have 2 partners, and they have 4 employees. Number 1, the first employee they had was the wife, who does the accounting, the bookkeeping, and the public relations, so she does the marketing and selling. The other 3, they just kind of got guys off the street, if you will. They said, you know, we hired for temperament and passion and not by experience. He said, because what we're doing is teachable, right? I want somebody who's committed. They hired him by temperament, not by experience. And they build in batches. They'll build 6 tables, and then they'll go and do 6 chairs, etc. So they build in batches, so it's a production style. Now the last guy, case number 5, the one-man factory. I like this one. He's in New York. He said himself, he's got the eye of the designer, the skill of a craftsman, and the practicality of a production foreman. All right? So he said he's solo, but he builds like a team. He makes stacks of parts and pieces. He has production runs where he does this. He also said that craftsman has to be a good business person, which I thought has to be a good businessman. The other thing he said, every time I pick up a hand tool, I can't make any money. It takes too much time, right? So he designs it so that when it comes off the machines, it's ready to assemble. He does a little thing at the end, but said, I can't pick up a hand tool because I'm losing time and money. He has efficiency because he finishes pieces, so he does a production run. And guess what? His wife is also the sales and does the marketing. The last thing he said was, when I started this thing, I thought it was going to be a field of dreams. Build it and they will come. And he said, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Marketing and selling. Okay. I thought that was kind of interesting. Where am I here? Okay, number 4. Just starting out, I thought I'd cover quickly the business type. You're either service, retail, or manufacturing. That's pretty obvious. The customer group, B2C, B2G, or B2B. Now, B2B, business to consumer, the user. B2B, business to business, or B2G, business to government. You're either one of those 3. I would imagine most of you are B2C, business to the ultimate consumer or user, right? Maybe somebody could be B2B. For example, does anybody work for schools?
Sometimes there's a little bit of overlap. That,
Sure.
I take in work from all 3 groups. The bulk of my work is consumer.
Consumer.
But, there are a number of stores throughout the region that send me
B2B.
work, and I occasionally get things from government, township offices and things of that kind. So,
I think of schools, having schools at all.
yes.
Schools come in too. Okay, well that would be to B2B. But
The vast majority of the work that I do is for other businesses.
is what?
For other businesses.
For other businesses, so B2B?
Yes.
Okay, what would you do for the other businesses?
Fence work,
Oh, really?
fencing work, yes.
Yeah. So you just make, do you make standard fences, or are there custom-made fences that you have to make for them?
Yes.
Okay. So you have custom.
Whatever you need.
Yep, what do you need? You know, I've been doing it for 40 years, I've seen it all come and go.
Essentially, every job is custom, every job is spec.
Yeah, and it's never in your shop. It's out there.
Oh,
It's always out there.
out there.
Yeah, I'd long run out of places to dig holes in the ground if I was doing them all at my location.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. The other one was forms of startup. You either start from scratch, buy a business, or buy a franchise. Most people start from scratch. The people that we see who come in start from scratch. We do have a couple who come in that want to buy a business, and there are businesses out there for sale in their particular area. Or if you really have the strong desire to be your own business person but don't know what you want to do, I just want to work for myself, that's a prescription for a franchise. You buy a franchise. And the last one is a business entity, sole proprietorship, partnership, limited liability, LLC, or an S corp. I mentioned that we were 65 folks. We were an S corp, and we did it for taxation purposes. So this was back in the early 80s. Today we'd probably be an LLC. Most of you, if you're going to start your own, you can be a sole proprietorship. Ta-da! Sole proprietorship. And what do you need? I use the sole proprietorship. I use the expression lawn care. What do you need? A pickup truck and a lawnmower, and a sign on the back that said, I'm in business, right? EIN, employer's identification number, et cetera, and you just put on your income tax form and put the sales and the expenses on that. We do have some, though.
You make that sound so simple. Why is it so much more involved than I said?
You're just making it hard, that's all. Yeah, come on. So, but if you're driving the public, you're feeding the public, or you're dealing with hazardous material, you should incorporate S corp. Okay. Starting out market research. I should tell you also that, and Scott will tell you this. I don't make just single one or two bullet points on my slides. They're content rich. Actually, what you have now are my speaker's notes, but so you can have my speaker's notes as well. The importance now is I'm going to focus a little bit more now on marketing and sales, but market research is very important. And the one here is you never have total information that's available. You have to make decisions on whatever information you find available. So one summer I was reading Donald Rumsfeld, the Rummies book, and he wrote a book called Known and Unknown. And I thought that was kind of interesting. So he broke it down into three categories. You know, known knowns, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns. You got that? Right. So, known knowns. These are things that you know, right? For example, you know facts, rules, laws, relationships. You know how to do what you do. You know what you know. There are things that you don't know. I don't know rocket science, and I don't know brain surgery, unless you're a rocket surgeon. So you know both. But you don't know, there's things that you know that you don't know. Gaps in knowledge that you have to go to school for. And then you have the things that can really bite you is the unknown unknowns. These are the things that you don't know that you don't know.
Until you don't know them.
Then you know them.
Until you learn them, then you know you don't know.
So
They could paint and move from unknown unknowns to known unknowns.
right, to known, yeah. So for the book, I said, okay, let's take a look about Iraq. What were the known knowns? You know, military strength, oil reserve, political system, ethnic composition. They know that going into Iraq. What did they know that they didn't know? They didn't know the weapons of mass destruction. They thought they knew that, but they didn't. They didn't know what the allegiance was going to be, the political support, and they didn't know the impact of shock and awe, right? What were the unknown unknowns? They didn't know about the political instability, ethnic strife, terrorist cells. They didn't know how to win the peace. They won the war, shock and awe, but they didn't know how to win the peace.
Or everything else.
Or everything else, right?
Yes.
So I said, see if I can translate that into the business community. So take a look at the business community, either startup or existing business. The known knowns that you have, your skill set, your personal finance, etc. Known unknowns. Some of the things that, for example, new competition, new products and services, customer patterns, trends, and fads. You know you don't know those, but you have to monitor those. Well, what are some of the unknown unknowns? Technical innovations, right? Who would have thought about 8 to 10 years ago, this guy called the iPad man.
Steve Jobs.
Yeah, Steve Jobs.
3D printers are going to put us all out of this.
That scares me.
But 8 or 10 years ago, you talk about innovation. Now he came up with a product that if you're driving out of your driveway or getting in your car and you back out and say, oh damn, my phone's inside. What do? You come back and get your phone. You can't leave the house without the phone. I mean, that's innovation, right? Technical innovations. Government intervention. Who would have thought Obamacare was going to be such a big mess that it is today?
Wait, should I put both hands
Oh, go
up?
ahead. Yeah, put your feet up, too.
Keep going.
Keep going.
I just went to the doctor the other day, got my toe checked out because I have an infection in my big toe, got a tetanus shot. What do you think it cost? I'm a cash customer.
150.
$40.50.
Oh.
What's broken?
Well, you have to pay for the needle, and you have to pay for the serum, whichever they use, whichever. So, but to go down, energy issues, war and terrorism, immigration. So you think about, could there be a 9/11 in your industry, in the music industry? Could there be a 9/11?
Yeah.
So there could be, right? So you have to monitor that. So let's go next, market research. You take a look at doing a market analysis. Do you thoroughly understand your market? Who's your customer? Who's your competition? And I mentioned, talking to one other gentleman, I said, in some regards, you guys are all kind of soft competition to each other. Great that you're getting together, but at some point in time, you may overlap either through geography or the fact that how many have websites? Okay? So by website, by definition, you're in competition. If you do the same thing as something one-off, right? You have a website, now you're global. By definition, you're global, right? What are the trends? Who's buying and who's building? What's the impact in the, if you have to follow industry, what industry would you follow? The music industry? Do you follow them? No. I would think.
General guitar sales are only useful to a point. I tracked them for a couple of years. You can get market analysis through like NAM and some other organizations that'll tell you specifically how many guitars were sold in specific price ranges. But it's all based upon factory production units made by major companies like Taylor and Gibson. So it's not very useful to the handcraft.
But if you had to take a look and say, for the Martins in the world and all of the top 10 brands, and then you take a look at you people, if you had to draw a pie chart, would the Martins and the big production people of the world, would they be 3/4? Would they be half?
China's probably half.
About half.
China's probably, unfortunately, the market is driven by $500 and down guitars, and I can barely buy materials in a case for
Oh, really?
$500.
Yeah. So the Yamahas and the other guys, they have their own market niche that they're looking, and they just, it's price sensitive,
Yes.
basically?
If you just solid body electric guitars, okay, you take a Les Paul.
Yes.
The Chinese, and I know this because I have friends that have they actually buy these things. The Chinese are building Les Pauls, and these guys claim they're basically, it's a total ripoff, even has a Gibson logo on it.
Yeah,
Purchased
they're
for under
outfits.
$400.
Yeah,
So
if
if-
they don't come in my door, I refuse to service them, take them elsewhere.
Really?
So basically, for those of us who are building, we're building custom instruments for people who graduated from the budget startup instruments, where somebody has reached a level where they want something tailored to their specific needs and wants.
Collectors,
Collectors, professional players, serious amateurs, somebody who can appreciate the nuance of the limited production or custom one-off.
Okay. And when you're selling,
And then you
your...
have and then you have somebody weird like me who's trying to establish themselves as a source of wood for these guys, as well as doing the same thing.
Right.
But
He's running around creating holes all over southeastern Pennsylvania, uprooting trees that then we turn into sawdust and guitars.
the Keebler L's are
Somebody's
in
gotta do
serious trouble.
Yeah. But somebody's got to do it, right?
Right, oh, absolutely, you know,
But-
I fell into it.
My question is, though, is there, if you're looking for a trend in your particular field, I would think, wouldn't music be, I mean, is folk music going to come back again when people use guitars?
Right now, the
Is-
biggest trend in the guitar, in the musical instrument field,
Ukuleles.
has to do with tone woods.
ukuleles, man.
And ukuleles.
No, it has to do with tone woods in what is disappearing.
Ukuleles
Really? Ukuleles come
Oh
back?
my, they're everywhere.
Yeah,
Everyone's
huge,
tripping
yeah.
over themselves to build ukuleles. I'm not on the bandwagon, I'm not building ukuleles.
That's a trend right
But you know, well, but you got to go with the trend, okay? And the other thing that we always find out, hang on a second, Joe. But the other thing we found out too is when I was in business, every 2 or 3 years, we had to reinvent ourselves. You have to reinvent yourself, right? Why? Because if you don't, there's guys behind you that will, competition. They found out, right? So you might be doing bridges, but maybe the next thing you gotta say, bridges are that might be my base load, but I need something to be on top of that, right? Joe, go.
There, talk about trends. What I tend to watch is the entertainment industry itself.
You know,
The economy collapsed, right? We all know, 2008. There's been a migration east as opposed to staying in California, in Hollywood, and the music business. They seem to be moving east. Tennessee's picking up, Nashville.
Ah.
What are the people playing in Nashville?
Yeah.
It's just like in the 50s and the 60s where you had guitars that were promoted by certain stars or whatever.
Right.
So, you know, that's one thing. There's also another thing that's coming about. You have the next Leo Fenders out there somewhere where they're going to integrate the computers and the actual instruments themselves. There's already the technology out there where you can have onboard effects right behind the tailpiece.
It's already done.
It's already been done.
So really, yeah.
Guitars that tune themselves, Gibson's been selling the E-Tune for what, 5-7 years now?
Moog guitars.
And Line 6 has a guitar that can sound like, sound like any other guitar.
What's, I'm trying to think of the other one that just came through the shop, has a strange.
But that's also limited too.
Well,
Because there's people that are purists.
but the advantage that we have is that the instrument needs to be reinvented, and we can do that. Fender, Gibson, and Paul Reed Smith can't. Paul Reed Smith already did, but they can't now because they're all tooled up and it's huge. So they just keep pushing their same reissues.
Yeah. See, and that's the value of the small business,
Yeah.
because you are flexible and you can respond to customer needs, and you can custom make those.
You can change direction faster than they can have meetings.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's one line, I mean, I'm flexible, I can build anything at any time. What was it that you wanted again, what size?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not confined by molds or, you know, production shapes.
Some people can be overwhelmed by that because they're not ready for that.
Well, you should only
Because
give a customer
all they
two,
know is-
maybe 3 choices
Yeah,
at the most.
all they
Lay
know
the
is
whole book out.
going
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the local store, picking something off of the shelf, and it's like, well, what do your guitars sound like? Well, what do you want it to sound like? Okay? You know what I mean? I can build you anything. Gibson isn't going to build you a Telecaster. Fender isn't going to build you a Les Paul.
Yeah.
The Chinese will build you anything and call it
For
whatever you
$500
want. And call it whatever you want.
Yeah, but there's the
They
rub.
gotta get it
You can,
required.
but will they pay for the customization? What you
The
gonna-
people that are looking for it, yeah.
Yeah, they will.
The people who are looking for it, absolutely. There is a market there.
All right, well, let me ask you then, the next one was, how is your market segment? We'll talk a little bit about that, and who does the buying within your marketplace? And how about reaching your customers? How do you reach your customers? Personal selling? Do you do client visits? It's a website, it's social media? How do you get
Any
to
way I can, all of the above,
all the above?
all of the above.
Yeah, well, you almost have to, and I'll talk about technology, about the impact today of social media.
How do you reach your
That
customer?
doesn't count. That's good. But nice try.
It's the best way.
And
Especially in the
reaching your
business like
customers.
this
And the
one.
last one I have is detecting a trend. And the challenge is to find a trend and then see how that trend can fit into what you're doing. So what I did with my homework, the other thing I took a look at, I said, if I were you guys, one of you guys, I would take a look at something like so-and-so. All right? So I put together what's a little marketing matrix, if I would. So down here is your range of services that you might provide to individuals, right? That's your rows. And your columns over here are your market segments. All right, so let me read down here. Range of services. Build the standard product, build a custom product, build a specialty, like, can you build a left-hand guitar?
I'm left-handed. You'll notice it says lefty friendly on the
I don't read that
card.
stuff. Where's it trash can.
Here, I have a left-handed guitar for you.
I should have.
Okay, so now,
I bet you.
do you repair? Do you do recondition? Do you restore antiques? Do you do a final finish? Do you maintenance? Do you build and sell parts? Do you build and sell parts, right? Do you buy, fix, and sell? Anybody buy, fix, and sell? Possibility? Do you teach or lecture? Do you author books and articles? And for electronic services, what do you do over here? And then I did the last one down here. I said, now, from that, maybe put down, what are the instruments that you service? And then go across here, and what you want to do is, if you can, you populate this with your target market. So who's your target market? So let's go across. Connoisseurs, collectors, dealers, musicians professional, musicians amateur, you said serious amateur, band or orchestra, symphony or conductor, museum curator, auctioneer, public school, college.
And the builder.
Pardon?
And the builder.
And the builder.
Yes.
For him at least.
Since
Ah, yes.
he's actually a supplier.
Raw materials.
More material.
Raw materials.
So then what you do is, what I did here is then you populate that, okay? And there's a couple ways you can populate, but what I did was say, okay, say I'm doing something with this guy, but it's a onesie-twosie. So I just leave it an open circle, right? But this guy, all of a sudden, this musician, I'm getting pretty nice business from him. I see him once every other month. But here's somebody in black, that's my cash cow, right? That's the guy I'm doing a lot of work with. So what you can do here is you can segregate this and find out where should I be going, right? What am I missing? And also you can do this. You know, I should, if you want me, I'll put this on a computer and send it to you guys. All right? So, yeah. Now that's going to cost you.
He is a salesman.
So,
All right, competition, I just took a picture of it.
How much is your version?
after I did this, I said, "Oh shit! I should have put in a handout." But
No, it's left-handed.
But the object here is, I don't care what you're going to do, but you can use this as saying two things. Number one, where's my passion? Where's my desire? What do I really want and like to do right here? And then the question is, what I want to like to do, can I find a marketplace for that? And if I can't, then what's the marketplace telling me that I should be doing? All right? So you could convert this then, not only from my wish list, but by weighting this. I did one for another client one time, and I even used 3/4 here. So, but that was what they want to be able to do. But so by a snapshot, you can see, there's my market, there's my, so you can do the same thing with your instruments. You find out what instruments you have down here, or going here, oh shit, there's a market I'm missing. Oh, there's a market I'm missing. Remember, the market, I used to hate my boss, he said, Hoke, the marketplace is never wrong. Oh, I hate that, right? Say you want to do 5 things, but the marketplace only needs 3 things, right? So you go to those 3 things that the marketplace tells you, this is what I'm doing. So I thought that's of some value to you guys, all right? Next page, page 7. I gotta move along here. What's in a name? When you come up with a name of it. So you got John Smith.
Dewey,
okay.
Cheatham, and Howe.
And there'll be an Otterhound. What the hell's an Otterhound? Okay. I mean, Brian Howard guitarist. Okay. So the great example right there. So general rule of thumb, you either identify your product or service, your founder or founding members, and or image or etc. I don't like the things that it says Blue Mountain Enterprises. What the hell is that? You know, it could be a financial, it could be an investment firm, it could be real estate. If you're going to use that, if you like their image and emotion and idea, then you have a tagline. And it could say guitars and string instruments as a tagline. So when you give the guy the business card, he doesn't have to guess what you're doing. Select your name. Know yourself and know your competition. Be creative, do your homework. The homework is it legally available? Right? Because you guys, before you do it, can I use that name? Is it out there? Also do your homework. Does it translate oddly? Or is it offensive? Some people get something like, oh my God, I had no idea what it is. Now, good example there is Lego, L-E-G-O. Lego in Danish is a foreshortened of Legot, L-E-G-O-D-T, which means in Danish, I play well. So they came up with Lego, L-E-G-O. And they used that for a couple of years. And somebody said, you know, in Latin, you know what that means in Latin? Winner, I assemble. I assemble. They just lucked out. So you got to be able to make sure you know what you're doing. And you're using branding, for example, in branding. Land's End, right? Who owns Land's End? Sears, right? But you don't know that, right? When Sears bought them and said, Land's End has value, I'm going to use that brand. Locally here is MedEd. Who owns MedEd? You know? First Energy. And they're located in Akron, Ohio. But they had value of using MedEd here. Now there's another guy who sold ties. His name was Ralph Lipschitz. Does anyone know who Ralph Lipschitz is? Ralph Lauren. Bingo. I have a Lipschitz shirt. You know, it looks like it too, right? No. So he started in ties and shirts, and he went to perfume, colognes, furniture. So he's up to $5 billion. Loren is his first daughter's first name. So register your name. You have to register your name in the state of Pennsylvania for a fictitious name. It only costs you $74 to do. That's to protect the state, not to protect you, believe it or not. And the issue is, the state wants to be protected so that if there's a lawsuit, that there's only one Ron Smith that has archtop guitars and basses. All right, there's only one. Even though it has Ron Smith, that's a fictitious name. You should get that registered.
Where do you get the forms to do that?
Pardon?
Where do you get the forms to do that?
You can go out online, and it's a Pennsylvania Department of State. You can do it online. It's about $74. All right. Well, the interesting thing is, before you go on, you can go down and see if that name is used before you log on. So that's important to do. The other side, now that you're global, is that name good around the globe? And so now you go on to something that you might want to go in the federal registration for a trademark or a service mark. All right. Now that's going to cost you anywhere from about $300 to $1,000. Take about 14 months to do. But you notice at SCORE, down at the bottom, we have a little R down there that's registered. SCORE used to stand for Service Corps Retired Executives. But there's one over here, it's called the Soccer Club of Reading. Now, they're not registered, but we are.
There's also the Southern California Off-Road Racing Enthusiasts.
Okay.
They run the Baja every
All
year.
right. Okay, the next one is to roll the business plan. My question always is, do you need a business plan to start a business? Do you need one? No, you don't. No, you don't. And how do you know? Because some of you started without it, and I know a number of people who started business without a business plan. Now, the question is, should you have a business plan before you start a business? And the answer should be yes, you should. Okay. We talk about the marketability of your business, and at SCORE we use the business plan as basically the context of doing that. When somebody comes in, we say what you should do is do a business plan, because then that forces you to take a look at the economics. So in the context of the business plan, you have knowledge, resources, opportunity, and core, and you put that in the plan. So knowledge is, do you have the smarts, do you have the experience, do you have the mentorship that you might need? Resources, do you have the people, the skill set? Do you have the resources, opportunity? Is there a niche out there? Is there a size out there? Is there a scale out there that says, I can do it? So I'm capable of being able to do that. And the last was the core. Do you have the product, the service, and the brand? So doesn't guarantee success, but it increases the odds. Probably the hardest thing you're going to have to do is a business plan, because that's not easy. The easiest thing in the business plan probably to do is you can do the narrative. Most guys like to tell, I can tell you what I do, and you have a great story to tell, right? But you have to be able to translate that into numbers, because if you're going to go to a bank, particularly, you're going to say, what a great story. But they're not English majors. What are they? They're accountants. They're number people. They're going to go back to the numbers and take a look at your financials. And you want to do that too. Take a look. Can I make money for doing what I'm going to do? The easy thing to do is the expenses when it comes to the numbers, because you can come up with expenses. You come up with what your wood's going to cost you. You can come up with utilities. You can come up with rent, insurance costs, etc. You can find that out. The hard part is projecting sales. Right? Can I sell so much of this to so many of these? So you may want to just translate now this into dollars. And it's not a wish list. You have to come up, can in fact I deliver for those? All right. Blueprint for asking the question. We talked about who's your customer. You set the environment. Although it's a moving target, you can present your current status, your projected, and future status. And you say when you're going to make up a business plan, You do, how good could it get? How bad could it get? And what's the most probable, right? So you do a scenario analysis of that. And the banks wants to say, okay, fine, we'll do the most probable. So you're looking from the three perspectives: the marketplace, do it from the investor, do it from the yourself or your partner. From the marketplace, do you have the interest, the needs, and the benefit from the market? For the bank or investor, they ask the 3 M's: management, market, and money. Are you the people, are you the person to do this business? Number 2, do you know the marketplace that well? Can you do this and create this yourself, be believable? And number 3, money. So the bank, if you go to the bank wants to know 3 things: money, how much you want, how are you going to use it, what's the last one?
How you gonna pay back?
How much do they get?
Pay me back. Here, pay me back. Yep. How much you need, how you going to use it, and how you going to pay back?
How are you going to change this perspective if you are not or do not need to borrow money in order to make this step?
You still need a business plan. You still should do a business plan.
But you're not dealing with the finance end of it with a bank, et cetera.
Right.
You're not going to them for the financial help. For example, if it's a side thing where you can ride it, you're making money on something else, you can ride it out and let something grow for 5 years.
Right.
And see how it goes.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily have to be dealing with the investors, the bank people,
No.
and stuff like
And
that.
there's crowdsourcing.
But
Pardon?
There's crowdsourcing.
Yeah.
Kickstarter, Indiegogo, you don't have to pay the money back.
Right.
It's a whole different dynamic.
We'll talk, yes, you're right. Good point. Save it till the next slide, Bill, but the importance of the business plan is it's a methodical way to approach your business, all right? And we have certain things that we use when we teach the class. If you want to, you can go to www.score.org or sba.gov, and they have templates that you use. But what it forces you to do is it forces you to take a look. Again, when you come in there and you talk about this, all right? This forces you to take a look at that. Forces you to take a look at that, right? Because you're going to have to come up with dollars. Now, the importance of it's not the piece of paper, because when you write a business plan and it's on the computer and you hit print and you print it out and hit with a staple, what is it? It's obsolete. Because there are certain assumptions that you used in there, right? Those they're obsolete. The importance and the value of a business plan is your thought process that you go through, right? You go through all 3 of these steps in detail, right? You convince yourself.
Just want to add to the whole picture of this. I'm in a partnership with a friend of mine, and
Yeah.
what we did at the very end is write how do we dissolve this business plan? So that his wife, my wife, or anyone, if we disagree or he loses interest, we can break the business apart equitably.
Are you a partnership or what?
Partnership.
Your partnership. Yeah, that was, we always discourage people going to partnership because this partnership is as good as 2 people who are the partners. As soon as one breaks out, boom. But you did exactly what we say. If you got in a partnership, you write a prenup. All right?
Right, exactly.
The prenup says what happens when you break up, who does
The
what,
LLC
who gets
costs
what.
more money, that's why we went with the partner.
Well, we have partners and we have partners, right? We have, whatever the weighting factor is, okay.
the thing that I remember from the class,
Yeah.
you had the wonderful acronym for the team you put in place, the BLAME.
Yeah,
The banker, the lawyer, the accountant, the insurance, and the mentor. I have not had to go to the bank and borrow money. I've been able to run without that. But the biggest thing for me was finding an accountant, because there were times I thought I was making money when I actually wasn't, and there were times when money that was being used well for the business didn't look like it was. So to have somebody who was able to put it all in perspective and say, yes, you are. It's like you need to trim here, you need to enhance this. Finding an accountant was the biggest benefit for me.
It makes a huge difference.
And
I got off with an extra $10,000 tax bill one year.
And I didn't just throw a dart, I
Because they
actually,
didn't pay attention and I pointed it out to them.
I actually had to spend several days and pick several candidates and sit down and interview them. And found the accountant who was the best fit for me and my business.
Still have,
Yes.
still have her
Yes.
or him? Yeah.
I've been working with her for about 4 or 5 years. And, she's excellent. It's made all the difference in the world, and I sleep a whole lot sounder at night.
Makes a huge difference.
Last thing on the bottom left-hand side, Shark Tank. You guys watch it?
I unplugged my television on the 28th of July.
You do watch it?
It's a religion for me.
Exactly. Because I said, well, people who bring in their business plan, I said, you watch Shark Tank Friday night, 9 o'clock ABC. Because when you go in front of those guys, if you feel that comfortable, you can do that, then you can, that, as a result of your business plan, you're very comfortable yourself. But I'm amazed at the number of people who go in there. I'm amazed at who gets some investment and who don't get investment. The one I liked about the guy who wanted to rent a goat.
Yes.
Did you see that one?
Yes, I did.
Guy wanted to rent about 40, 50 goats, or 200 goats, and they'll come in and clear a property.
Yeah.
And they brought 2 goats in, and they brought shrubs in. While they were making the pitch, the 2 goats were up there, and they denuded the little planted shrub that they had there.
That's not a bad idea.
Great idea. Didn't get any money. Didn't get any money.
Got well.
Yeah. But interesting. We suggest you take a look at that.
There are airports looking into doing that, and other facilities, a lot of facilities looking into bringing goats in to take care of stuff like that naturally now.
He's doing quite well though, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he is in California. Yeah. I can see the next aviation incident where a jet sucked up one goat in the intake.
Well, Chevy on for
We
dinner.
got goat meat for the people in steerage class.
Where's Sully when you need him?
Okay, realities of finance. I wanted to put this in. I said sources of capital, if you need capital, and the sources and uses on the finance side. So the sources, you said the second one, personal. Most you can run for your personal, your savings, your stock, cash value, etc. Or the other one, the second one down there is lenders, the banks, credit unions, or leasing. The government, they have Ben Franklin Technology Firm, which is over in Allentown. That could be available. Now, the SBA, you don't get a loan from the government. The SBA, banks are partners to the SBA. So you go to a bank and get the loan from the bank, and the SBA supports that. Now, for example, if you're going in today, the bank will provide 50% of the loan. The SBA will provide 30%, and you provide 20%. All right? Because they'll want you to, if you want $100,000, you're only going to get 80. You got to come up with 20%. Today, the SBA has what's called a 504 loan policy, where the bank gets 50, the SBA will give you 40, so you only have to come up with 10. So that's kind of to stimulate the business. And the other one that you had just mentioned about social networking, about crowdfunding. Has we all heard about crowdfunding at all? Does that ring a bell to anybody? Have you used it? Are you familiar with it?
I'm very familiar with it.
Well, explain it. Could you tell us your story?
Well, there's 2 major ones, Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And they call them campaigns because it's almost like running for office. And they average about 60 days, and you put up a short video of what you want. But to be successful, you have to be very specific about what you want.
Right.
And the way it works is, people aren't, it's not like, they're not just giving you the money. You have to give back a gift. This is how it works. And the gifts it's incremental. Starts at $1, usually could go up to 5,000. And it's like this. If I need $1,000, I could go to the bank and ask one person for $1,000, or I could ask 1,000 people for $1.
Right.
And the $1 people don't have to pay back.
Right. It seems to work. It takes, they're saying it takes probably, the average is about at least 50 people to respond to your ad, and the average is about, I think about $15,000 is what you're going to get. That's the average. Now, I get Entrepreneur Magazine, and last month the lead article was crowdfunding, and the highest one was $8 million that they got. Of the top 100, I would say 75 or 80% were all what? IT related. They were either an app or a game
Yeah,
or something of that
gaming.
nature.
What are these people expecting in return?
They get the gift.
It's a gift.
You know what you're
You
gonna
have, people just give because they have the passion for
The
it.
gift, what is the gift? They get the
Uh,
gift. I don't
if you-
understand what you mean by they get the
Well-
gift. What is the
Well,
gift?
sports specific, like back when guitars got funded.
Yeah.
And you go high up, if you give them, I think it was like $5,000, you got like 4 guitars. It was like amazing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's unusual. Usually it's like a thank you for $1 and like 20 you get a t-shirt, you know, stuff like that.
Okay, so for them volunteering money to you, you volunteer something back to them.
Sometimes you do something, sometimes you don't. Right now, the SEC is trying to look at that because it's an issue of equity. If you give somebody something, a part of the business, you are now an equity partner, so they had to define what part of the equity you are. Some people, for example, if you're making a product, they'll say, you'll get one of the first 25 that come off the line.
Yeah.
You'll get those free of charge, something
Yeah.
of that nature. It's also, I mean, it could be also like, when we get into marketing, it said the importance of getting people to respond to you and getting some as a reference. Okay, so if somebody, can I use you as a reference? Somebody gives you a name, pass it on. You should respond to that reference, like give them a box of chocolates, give them a ticket to the theater, give them a ticket to dinner or something of that nature. You thank the people who are going to give you as a reference, that type of thing. And that's all you have to do. But that was the other one. The other one I wanted to mention too is under venture, they have angel investors. Now, we don't have angel investors here in Reading. We did at one point in time. The angel investors are high net worth people who come together as a group, kind of like your association, right? You have maybe, at the most you have 16, maybe you have high net worth people that will be willing to put $5,000 or $10,000 in. And but they're going to get the money back. But for particularly people who have startup, you can't go to some banks, and banks says, I don't do startups, or I don't do startups in food service, or I don't do startups in art and crafts things. So there are such a things as the angel investors. Lancaster has one. They have a big angel investor over there, and Allentown has, Lehigh Valley has one. The typical investment there is about $50,000, right? But they expect their money back. You'll have fairly loose terms, so you're going to have to find those. The other one on sources and uses of the source and uses chart. On our business plan, we suggest if you're going to go out and the bank wants to see how you're going to use the money and where you're going to get it from. So on the left-hand side says, here's where I get my sources. I'm putting $25,000. The family's putting in $5,000. I get some of the bank, some of the local, there's $150,000. On the other side of the coin, you see inventory, furniture, fixtures, leasehold improvements, etc., and working capital. So you see they balance out $150,000 each. Now, working capital, you know what working capital is? That's the money that you need to live off until you get traction in the marketplace, right? So in today's market, you'll probably need anywhere from 9 to 12 months worth of working capital so that you can have a life, at least you can eat and keep yourself going until the money starts coming in from the folks that you have over here. Using your professional team was our next one. That's a BLAIME. At some point in time, you should have an outside advisor. You don't need a bank, but it's good to have a bank. A lawyer, an accountant, insurance agent, a mentor, and finally, a technologist, somebody who can give you something in the software and the hardware and help you with your internet, if you need that, somebody to help you with your social media. And what do? They provide expert opinion. They help you avoid isolation. That's one of the things that you guys are doing here. If you're sole practitioners, you come in here and you kind of commiserate together. I found this, I found that, etc. You might want to have these people as your business advisors so you don't have that isolation. Lend perspective, provide candid and honest feedback, and then moral support. Next one. Marketing, 4 Ps, 5 Ps of marketing. Product, pricing, people, place, and promotion. Most people, when they think of marketing, they think about this particular page. Now, when it comes to the product, can you define your offerings, your features, your benefits, your unique value proposition with your competitive edge? When it comes to pricing, you at least you come up with what's my break-even price? Okay, break-even. So I'll use an example when we were in consulting. So we had 65 individual consultants. We found out then when 65% of our consultants, people who were available to sign on a project, when 65% or 2/3 of those were actually billing to a job, they were billing to a client, we made money. When I went to 66%, it was all profit. 67, it was sheer profit. Okay? So I said I did a lot of traveling around, so I had an opportunity to talk to people who, airlines, hotels, and car rentals. So I talked to all those individuals. Said, airline, when do you start making money? When we fill the plane up by about 2/3. Hotel, when we sell about 2/3 of our rooms. And how about the Avis and those guys? When we rent about 2/3 of our units, we start making money. That, they're break even. What you have to find out is, what is your break even? You know, when do you start making money? So that was my rule. I said, that's Hoke's rule of 65. You have to find out what your rule of 65 is. So if you're an artisan or tradesman, etc., if you're a carpenter or if you're an electrician, that's 26 hours a week out of a 40-hour week. You have to be billing something. I'm billing that so I can charge that eventually, right? So that's 26 hours a week. So what do I do? What do I do for the other 14? Pardon?
The bar.
Everything else, right? But so you have to find out how many hours how many hours you put into that. How long does it take to make a guitar? I was surprised. John told me you started that in June and you had about 50 hours in that. You said you could one more week you could finish that.
Right.
One more week. So that's 100 hours, right? Basically.
Probably 60 by the time I'm done, yes.
Yeah.
120 to 145 hours depending upon details and appointments. I generally build 3 at a time.
Oh, you do? Okay.
That's time study. I've been a professional woodworker my whole life. I've run a production cabinet shop. I know how to do time studies and cost analysis.
Oh boy.
This is how much things can vary. I have wood that has been drying for years that is just now viable.
Years.
Years.
Yeah, years. Now that's air dry, not kiln dry.
Yes.
Air dry.
Kilns are for pottery.
True artisan here. Yeah, Joe.
It takes me about 40 to 50 hours from actually cutting slab of wood up until it's actually playable. And
so
what I kind of balance it between, like we were talking about, I just started producing parts, in other words, bodies.
Yeah.
So many bodies, so many fingerboards.
So that's your production style, basically.
That's where it's going, because I'll never make a dime, you know.
But when you make those, but can they still be customized at some point?
Yes.
They can. But you need a body, you need whatever, but you still can customize the result of that. When you customize, you say, here's my standard guitar. Can I upsell for custom? Okay, I can upsell for custom.
Yeah.
And while we're talking about that for a second, when we talk about that also, when you start out, when it comes down to pricing, you want to think that sometime when you start out initially, you may have to buy your way into the marketplace, which means you may have to sell lower than what you would say. The standard price is $500. To get started, you may have to sell at $350.
Sometimes you got to give something away to get something back.
Bingo. But you let the buyer know that the reason I'm doing this is because A, I want to get started. I want to satisfy the customer. Can I use you as a reference for the future?
I have what I'm sending out to San Diego as soon as the check clears. It's getting a couple extra sets with different types of wood. Going to show them around to other friends, business cards, the whole 9 yards. You know,
This is what
if they want them, they can buy them. Take your cut out of it to cover your cost for the shipping and stuff like that. You know, those sort of things. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you got to.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it, but it sure helps.
Well, do you ever make a couple things that are sitting around and say, it's been there for 2 years, I can't sell the damn thing? Right? So you don't have to go anywhere, but you have a spring special or something like that, and you say, I got to move.
My guitars are going on special as we speak.
Every year I donate a bill to the Lancaster Hospice auction.
But you got to get the turns.
Yeah.
You got to get the rotation from that.
Right.
Hang on a second. You were bringing up something.
I could tell by your face you were hating those numbers. The 100 and some hours, 50, and he's doing good.
Yeah, you can
I
see
mean-
the agony.
I can see it.
Well,
But I mean, you've got to be thinking, wait a minute, how can you possibly do this?
It depends what you're doing. If you get into some of the real
Well, it just-
classical stuff, you're talking hundreds of hours sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I hate to bring up those 3 letters, but, you know, CNC is a reality, and to me, if you're ignoring that, you're just,
Well,
But
that,
there's still a niche for the handmade. product.
absolutely,
There
well,
absolutely
exactly,
is.
absolutely. But the other thing too is you have to find those clients that will pay that freight and will appreciate the tone, the quality, the playability, whatever else you're trying to sell them. What are the sizzle that you get? And you don't want to, maybe a little bit later I'll talk about, but you don't want to do that.
Would you give the finest instrument that you ever made to a professional artist just to have them play it so that you can get the exposure for it? Hell yes, of course you will.
But the other side of the coin, I did want to make a point. If you say it's $500, that's typically what you sell, but you're going to sell for $350. It's almost like the car companies. You know, I want to buy an SUV, and the SUV is $25,000, right? But the dealer will cut off $2,000, and it'll give you, for this month, it'll give you another $1,000. So you're down to $22,000. But you know what? He never moved the sticker price. So you don't want to move the sticker price, but you want to tell them what you're doing for them. All right? So they'll feel that they got it was a good deal for you, I moved it, I got my first sale, etc., and they feel good that they got something in the price. So they feel good when they go away.
Right, my dealers always do that. They put the list price and sale price.
Yep, go.
The term that I've heard for this is what is referred to as a loss leader.
Yeah. Well, a loss leader could be something, you know, this is where I want to sell.
Setups. Setups are a lost leader. I don't make a lot of money on setups, but
Yeah.
they generate lots of other business. Hey, your frets are wearing out. You know, you could use a new nut. It's a great point to sell.
You're doing setup pro bono?
No, I mean I charge for them, but I don't make my normal hourly rate usually to set up a guitar.
I think the Ford Focus is a loss leader.
Brings
They
back-
make their money on the bigger cars.
Right.
They don't make money.
The same thing here, you might get down here,
Service
says,
and
I
maintenance.
want to go in this particular, I want to keep that guy happy. I might be losing money here, but at least I keep this guy happy, right? I have a loss leader, it's something that, in order for me to be in the craftsman business, I hate like hell to do it, right? The other side of the coin is, you may, at some point in your life, you may have to fire a customer. You ever fire a customer? I said, I'll do it for you one more time, but I'll tell you, when you darken my door, I'm not home. I'm too busy, I can't
I had
do
to
it.
fire my
Yes,
biggest
I've had to
customer
do
one
that.
time.
Yeah?
Yes. Had an amplifier customer, I'd get his
Wife.
amplifier, he'd be thrilled when he'd leave it. Yeah, he'd go home, he'd have a beer, it wouldn't sound the same. He'd start tampering with it, he'd bring it back, say, please fix, and after the third or fourth time, I said, no more.
Yeah, I would
This-
simply refund his money for instruments to get out of this situation. So get your money back, leave the guitar, it was nice to know you.
In January 2012, we had a meeting up in Emmaus at Artinger Guitars, and it was very interesting to meet and talk to Matt, because even though he's got a shop with the CNC and he's building instruments, and he's doing as much as he can, he's outsourcing what he has to, but he continues to do repair work and other things in between the builds to keep the cash flow, to meet his daily expenses. So he'd love to be doing nothing but building, but reality is he's got to fill in some of the other spaces to keep a positive cash flow.
Remember one of the ones I talked about, the fine woodworking, they did the lecture and the authorship. And that's about branding, getting exposure, not only exposure to the local community, but getting exposure on your website as well. Okay, so we talked about pricing. People, you're in social, you're doing it on your own, you're the solo, you're the sales staff, you're the marketing staff, you're the sales team. Place, where do you sell? Do you sell on the internet? Do you sell to groups? Is it face to face? How do you sell?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you do all that. And finally, in promotion, when people talk about promotion, they really think about, when they talk about marketing, they talk about promotion. So PR, advertising, mailings, brochures, trade shows. Do you go to trade shows? Do you take your equipment, go over someplace once a year, twice a year, regional?
Whatever you gotta do.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You do go, okay.
I've spent all my money doing it, and I'm done with that now.
Well, the question is, here locally, they used to have a builders association that was over at Berkshire Mall. And most of the small contractors will go over there, they have pictures and everything. They would get almost like 60% of their business in the fall or spring of that builder show. That's where they get all they get that exposure. And they got people who just sign up, bingo. Okay. So it's worthwhile. Did you have a question? Okay. Go to sales real quick. Let me, I'm going to read this to you because I didn't want to put it in there. So it's the law of the jungle. Every morning in Africa, an antelope wakes up. It knows it must outrun the fastest lion or it'll be killed. Okay? Every morning in Africa, a lion wakes up and it knows it must run faster than the slowest antelope or it will starve. So it doesn't matter whether you're a lion or an antelope. When the sun comes up, you better be running. That's the law of the jungle. That's also the law of the business world. You gotta sell. You gotta sell. Next page. Okay, the importance of engaging the customer in sales. You know, by asking the right question, you become a better closer. So you help, and see down the bottom right-hand side, flow of communication. Most people think when you're talking to a customer, you should do all the talking and they should build a listing. Well, it's just the opposite. Because you don't find that out unless you start asking questions. So really the balance is you should be talking 1/3, asking questions, and they should be talking 2/3. And then you find out, they'll help them make the decision to find out what the benefits are looking for, et cetera. So you can kind of feed into that. The other bullet point is qualify the customer. Difference between a prospect and a suspect. We all get hung up with the suspect. You're talking to somebody who has no idea, no inclination in the world they're going to buy from you. That's a suspect. You want to get to the prospect. Somebody has the interest, has the money, and has the desire and the need for something like that. And you have to be able to distinguish one or the other because the suspect will take all your time up. And you're going to say, what'd you do? Well, I had a great conversation, but I walked away empty-handed. The next bullet point is get to know your customer, DISC. Does anybody know what that DISC stands for? Did you ever have an attribute test? Anybody? DISC?
Oh, what?
DISC, an attribute test. What's your personality?
Oh, yeah.
For example, DISC. D stands
I'm
for...
dead.
D stands for
I found that
dominance.
out the other day.
D stands for dominance. I stands for influencer. C stands for someone who's concise and detailed. That would be us here, right? And S is a steady relator. Now, a steady relator is somebody who just knocks along and does a steady state, doesn't like to make decisions, doesn't want change, all right? 44%. The dominants are the decision makers. They make the quick decision. The concise and detail are people like yourselves who like the detail. I want more detail. Typically, the architect, the engineer, the doctor, the dentist. I'm a detailed person, craftsman like you, all right? And the I is the influencer, the guy who will talk you to death, good salesman, but will never make a decision. So what you want to do is you find out when you talk to somebody as a particular client, you got to find out what DISC they are, so that almost in some regard you can be a chameleon, that you can be what they are like. If they want detail, you give them a lot of detail. If they're an influencer, you push influencer aside, could be the wife, so you talk to the guy who's going to make the decision. So you get to the dominance person. The dominance person said, what do you got? Bing, bang, bing. He makes a decision. I want the price. When are you going to get delivered? Bingo. You got that. So the tie-in there is this, the rule of thumb. People buy from people they like, they trust, and are like them. They like, they trust, and are like them. So what you want to do is you want to find out what that attribute is. If they like the detail, you give them the detail. If they don't like the detail, you don't give them the detail. I think that's better flow of balanced communication, and it's a joint process so that when you get them on their side, they actually make the decision. Go ahead. The next one is role impact technology. You see the technology envelope on the left-hand side. You see the operations, just like we have here. The operations, administration, and marketing. The technology helps you in all those envelopes. But the true game-changing tools, first of all, was the website, and the website was the first generation. Everybody had to have a website. So you have a website, it has to be fresh, tip of the day, profile of products and services, etc. Now, the last thing is mobile friendly. One of the consultant firm is projecting that 30% of the online sales in 2015, online sales will be with a mobile device, right? So your website has to be mobile device friendly.
One interesting change with all that now, at the guitar show, I now have a square, so I bring it's usually younger kids that buy a vintage guitar from us. They'll take out a credit card, you put the square in your phone, you swipe it, and it's a credit card sale right there, and it's pretty neat.
Has to be done, right? And the other one was the social media, whether it's a blog, a Facebook, a Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever. You have to combine your branding, your lead generation, your business partnership. That's so important. And you get down to the impact. If Facebook were a country by population, it would be the third largest. They just went over 1 billion users this summer.
Wow.
So they'd be right behind China and India and Facebook. So, and then you take a look at on sales today, sales of the mobile devices are far overshadowing PCs and laptops now. And so we have somebody who's coming in to do some IT work for the baby boomers. And so the guys, the baby boomers, they want to communicate with their grandchildren, right? So they're going to sell them a laptop or a PC. I don't need that. All I need is an iPhone. All I need is an iPad or something. They don't need the capacity that you want to try to sell. You need the mobile device. Down here we talk about performance metrics. Most people think about performance metrics as dollars and cents, and that's it. But if you go around, you see, I don't think this is busy enough, but you kind of get the idea that there are metrics that you should be looking at when you go around the entire loop. So remember we said, if it's sustainable and you're scalable, if you're down here, what you want to do if you can, you want to come from here up to here. That is, you're doing more managing of your business than actually doing the work down here yourself, you can. So the other thing is what you want, when you have scalability. So when you want to look at performance metrics, I like the marketing. Sales, how many customers do you see each day, week, or month? How many customers call your business? How many products you've sold, etc. So there are a number of sales metrics that you should have that you should be monitoring, right? And the same thing of when you advertise. If you're advertising, when someone comes into your shop and says, let's talk about, the first thing you say, how did you hear about us, right? Because if is a web page, is it worthwhile? Am I Yellow Pages? Am I in a magazine? How would you hear about me? Or is it through a friend? Relationship building. Managing your business, and that's, I was just leaving with that. If you have the opportunity for scalability, you want to get out there. But you ask yourself when you look at these, who's doing each of the functions? How well they coordinate? Who's a stepchild and why? I'll tell you, typically the stepchild will be down here or up here, right? Because you're busy doing this. But now you realize, because what happens, I build, I sell, I build, I sell. Oh God, I got to build this thing. Oh God, will the phone ever ring? I can't get enough business. So it's like this, right? You're too busy. Oh my God, I go down back row. Oh God, the phone never rings. Oh God, I'm too busy. So you got to see if you can balance that out.
Feast and famine.
Okay. Next one. 16. This might be a little bit too much, but basically this is, anybody ever heard about SWOT analysis? SWOT, strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. That's what I'm doing with a group in Pottsville on Wednesday. That's over a 3-month period. And what we're doing will help me go in, and it's best to do for outside, but you have to take a look at what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, what are my threats, and what are my opportunities. So you go back to this. You know? Where are your strengths over here? Where are your weaknesses? And you can kind of do this with your mapping of populating that. Examine your business cycle. Where are you on the business cycle? Not only you, but where's the trend of your particular industry? Where's the musical industry and the musical instrument industry going? Where are you on that particular glide path? Number 9, on page 18, if you want to grow, probably the question is, you don't grow for growth's sake. You want to increase your sales, add employees, new location, expanding your footprint, diversifying, merging, or even franchising something. So review your existing operation. Do you have a cash cow, right? Do you have an up and comer? That might be this is an up and comer. Or do you have this guy, which is a dog, that you got to put down? That's it. Don't do it anymore, right? Because I'm losing money. As long as it's not part of your portfolio. So you have the opportunity to expand horizontally, which means you cross-sell, which means you cross-sell here, or you upsell, which means you sell up there, right? Put the highest, the thing that you like to do the most, and then where you're going to get the most money up here. So the question is, can you upsell this? If you're down here, can you upsell there in this particular group, or can you cross-sell to different folks over here? So management, the other comments I have to myself here, cash flow, that's important. Your business model, do you have a business model that you like someone who does what you do and does it very well? Can you emulate that? Can I follow what the guy's doing? Sounds like he's got some good stuff over here, if he knows exactly what his times are. Joint ventures and alliances. Is there somebody else that you can, is there somebody up here that you can align with? For example, can you align with a dealer or an auctioneer or somebody else that you can align with and do some things together, right? Because if you're a, where are you? Build, sell, no, buy, fix, and sell, maybe you should be here with the dealer or an auctioneer. Maybe that's your alliance that you want to do. Right?
Just had a music store open up across the street from me.
Who was it?
Just had a music store open up basically across the street from me.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Well, another one could be maybe somebody at college or university, one of the professors who teaches music or something of that nature. And bingo, they send their clients to you.
Music instructors, tie up with your local guitar instructors. I have a couple of them. I'll do setup work and maintenance work on their instruments for absolutely free. All they pay for is parts. And they keep a fat stack of my cards in their case, and anytime one of their students needs a setup or something like that, call this guy.
The last one I have is, for the first couple of years I did this, I always said, why businesses fail? And I said, no, don't want to do that. What does successful businesses do? So I put these 12 down. Business,
They make money.
yeah, bingo. They make money. Business planning, they do the market research, they forecast. They target market, they do diligence, they do this thing. They don't assume, they know the competition. They embrace technology, we just talked about that. They engage in teaming. We just talked about maybe some alliance that you can have. You guys could align with each other here. Advisory team, we talked about blame. They diversify their income. They bundle some of these to diversify where you're going. They do marketing and selling. Educate the customer. Remember, marketing and selling. Marketing has to do with educating your customer. Selling is going to the bank. That's everything else besides marketing. It's taking it to the bank when you sell. Problem solving, early detection, you stop your bleeding. If you're not doing something well, find out why you're not doing something well. Buy the books. Establish your metrics when it comes to performance metrics. Watch your cash flow. If they change to why are they? Management skills, your flexibility, versatility. That's what you guys do. Art of the deal, negotiating skills. I don't like to negotiate. My question is, are you married? Do you have children? Do you have suppliers?
3 dogs, 2 cats.
You negotiate.
You don't negotiate, they tell you what.
Exactly.
Okay, so, all right, negotiate, you herd cats. That's good enough. That's good enough. And finally, keep your taxes current and get professional help. And don't forget, if you're in it by yourself, retirement. Put money aside for retirement. If your accountant hasn't told you that, it should be telling you that. The last sheet I have is, John, I put in an evaluation sheet. If you could, if that would be the last thing you could do, I'd appreciate that, so I can take that with me. Now,
Great.
that was the first 45 minutes. Now, do you have any specific questions?
You mentioned retirement, and that was an interesting epiphany not quite a year ago, but after spending 36 years in the computer industry, I'm now doing this, and at this moment, I'm looking at this as my retirement, but I'm going to keep doing this until I'm no longer able to do it. So.
But Mother Nature has an opportunity, yeah, like knock on wood, yeah.
You
Mother
bet.
Nature has a way of coming back at you and saying, I don't want you to do that, I want you to do such and such.
Well,
So
yeah, as I was telling you before we started, as I've seen in the last 2 months, yes,
Yeah.
there are disruptions.
Adapt.
Any questions? Anybody has any comments, or did we hit what you want? Go ahead.
One thing I've noticed, people that have been really successful in business, they kind of were really passionate about it. It's what they really like to do, and they eventually made it work.
Mhm.
The people that went into a business to make money often didn't have success. So I think doing what you really like can be really important. And you
Well,
really
I
have
think, that's why I say, if you get personal fulfillment, if you get passion, if this is something you like to do, you're going to do it well. Other successful people say, the other thing is, I've been very lucky in what I've been doing. And, it's like the football coach said, I'm lucky on the weekends because you know what, I practice like hell during the week. So which means that you do these things well, and you do the 3 things well, and all of a sudden you'd be surprised how successful you could be, and you can be. passion and motivation certainly overtake brain power.
Well, the ones that were successful also worked awful hard on it.
Yeah,
They spent a lot of hours on it. Eventually, it seems to work for them.
yeah. Well, anybody read the book, Steve Jobs? You ever read that book? I mean, he was probably one son of a bitch to work for. Because I'll tell you, the two things he used to say, we come in with an idea, he would say two things. Number one, it's either insanely creative or it's crap. And like 98% of the time it was crap. But he was a guy who, he failed. They kicked him out of the first business that he had, and he took over the video.
Pixar.
What was it?
Pixar.
Yeah, and then he came back, they brought him back. But he had his hands in everything. I remember part of the book said that he was going by, it was a very open studio they had out there in California, and he was going through the reception area, and he happened to look, one of the guys sitting over there was waiting to go in for an interview, and he had this little screen in front, it was doing this, and the slides were advancing like this. He goes over and looked at the guy and said, "What are you here for?" I said, I'm ready for an interview." He said, "Come with me." Bingo. I mean, he had that panache to be able to recognize good talent, keep good talent.
Henry Ford went bankrupt 3 times.
Right?
And he swore that he wanted to hire the best people so that it would free him up to do the thing that he did best, which was think.
Ooh, good.
More sports specific.
Yeah.
Paul Reed Smith's story is pretty good. I don't know if you guys watch Danny's Guitar Shop. I'm a real TV geek over here. Danny's Guitar Shop, they did, the last episode was all Paul Reed Smith, and he's now third. The Fender's around 350 million, Gibson's like a little over 300 million. I think last year did 43 million. And you know, this is a guy that like made guitars and just booked musicians backstage until then he got Santa, right, and then he got Carlos Santana.
And he was going actually to give a guitar to someone else.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So,
I was a big fan of Paul Reed. The first time I tried this back in the 90s, Paul Reed Smith, Wayne Charvel, Bernie Rico were my heroes. Those were the people I tried to emulate. But yeah, Paul Reed Smith, out of the 3 men I just named, Paul Reed Smith is the only one who really made a success out of it. Wayne Charvel sold his name to, you know, Ibanez Jackson, which I think is under
Fender has it, yeah.
yes, you know. So yeah, Bernie Rico sold out while he was still alive, and his kids have continued that trend. Anything with his name, anything with his name on it these days isn't worth much.
and Paul Reed Smith, this guy's pretty hardcore. He seems like a real gentle guy, but I've heard stories where he'll go on the line and see something he doesn't like, he'll pull a guitar down, cut it in half on the floor.
The wood on that guitar right there was bought, the back of that guitar was bought from Paul Reed Smith. It was out of a pallet that he rejected.
Wow.
I went through the whole pallet. It was the only set in there that was actually I found to be usable. But yeah, it was.
Where's he